Turkish food is one of the great cuisines of the world. But how many of us really know its secrets? Up the hill from the Spice Bazaar and overlooking the Bosphorus sits Topkapi Palace. It was built in 1453 after the Ottoman sultans drove the Byzantines out of the city. Now a public museum, in its day, the palace was home to as many as 4,000 people at any one time and contained bakeries, a hospital, mosques, and even an imperial harem. I'm here to meet Batur Dume, a local restaurateur who's leading a revival in Ottoman cuisine. So apart from being a really beautiful place, why did you get me to meet you here?
I actually want to show you the main kitchen complex, how huge it is with all these chimneys. There are 2 rows of 10.
It looks like a pretty big kitchen. How many cooks would they have in there?
At the grandest times, 1,200 people.
1,200 cooks in the kitchen?
Cooks in the kitchen.
How many people are they cooking for?
During the feasts, like for weddings and circumcisions, up to 15,000.
How many circumcisions were happening for to need 1,000 cooks?
Depending on the sultan.
All jokes aside, circumcision was one of the many religious celebrations honoured with a feast. But the work of the chefs involved established Ottoman cuisine for centuries to come. You're talking about hundreds of years ago that all this was happening. Like, how do you know this?
Well, all these events were documented by historians.
Batur's done painstaking research to collect notes and books like this one, on which he bases his own recipes. It's a classic Ottoman cookbook.
Yes. This is one of the very first. You know, there are about 50 dishes in this one.
So what you're serving is really authentic Ottoman cuisine.
That's what we believe.
Look, you're rediscovering something that hasn't been done for centuries.
Right.
You know, finding what the ingredients are, if they're still available, how it was cooked, how it was tasting. All this talk of Ottoman recipes has got my mouth watering. Lucky for me, Batur's invited me back to his restaurant to try a dish that's nearly 500 years old.
So, Shane, we're going to try to cook the stuffed melon for you. Recipe from 1539. So we're gonna start with the meat. We're gonna chop it up a little bit.
Okay.
We're using veal, lamb tail fat, and lamb.
Okay. So you don't use a mincer, you use a master butcher.
Yes.
You know, when you can chop it by hand, it's a lot better than pushing it through the machine.
Oh yes, the texture and the taste coming out of it, and the juices stay still inside.
meat, yeah.
You know.
That's a really interesting technique, and I've seen people chop meat really finely, but never in that sort of scissor motion. I suppose it would pull the meat together a little bit as well. Get all that fat all the way through. With his meat minced, Chef Ahmed empties out the hero melon and sends the shell off to be baked. So what's he doing now?
We're going to prepare the stuffing. We're gonna brown the onions, brown the meat.
Ahmed adds pine nuts, almonds, currants, and a few sprigs of rosemary, and parboiled rice. A dash of salt and fresh herbs, and the filling is ready to be stuffed in the cooked melon, and then drizzled with a puree of melon seeds and sumac. Well done, chef. With the cooking done, out in the restaurant, Batur's got me strapped in for a treat. The melon is joined at the table by quail and eggplant, old school hummus, fig, apricot and lamb stew, and a heap of other dishes straight out of Turkish history. It's definitely a feast fit for a sultan. Yeah, the flavours are really pronounced. You can really taste like the nuts from the currants and the spice. But there's not a huge amount of spice in there. You know, it's
very little.
Very delicate.
Whatever you add in, you should be able to distinguish it in the end product.
And that, in a nutshell, is a centuries-old secret to Ottoman spices. A delicate balance of clearly distinct flavours and still just as tasty today.